Welcome to Edinburgh, Scotland, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And if you're ever lucky enough to come, there are three things you have to know about: tartan, whisky and haggis. Now, I've already done my bit about tartan. This is in fact my family tartan from the clan Gunn. That's where my family comes from. And in fact, it goes even further back than that because Gunn is apparently named after a Viking, Gunnar. But we also need to know about whisky and haggis and how to eat like a Scot. Let's find out. Wherever you go in Edinburgh, you are invited, you're persuaded, maybe to taste a wee drop of whisky, because whisky is its proudest export to the entire world. With me is Lenka now, and you can explain to me why whisky is so important, because we're in this incredible place.
So welcome into one of the world's largest Scotch whisky collections, collected by this lovely gentleman, Clive from Sao Paulo in Brazil. We are home of Scotch whisky in Edinburgh. We're owned by the Scotch whisky distilleries, and we were founded 37 years ago to represent all these beautiful producers.
But this incredible place, this collection of Scotch whisky, is the collection of one man?
Yeah, so it's the passion of his life was Scotch whisky.
But he wasn't a Scot.
No, but Scotch whisky is an international drink, as you can probably tell from my accent.
Yes.
I'm originally from Czech Republic, the country that invented lager.
You've got a very good tinge of Scots.
Yeah,
about
I've been
you,
here
then.
for a while, and I've worked here for 27 years. I keep losing the track. And yeah, this is the jewel in our crown.
It is.
3,400 bottles, roughly, all unopened. And this is where all our visitors get to experience when they come on tour.
So this was one man's passion for whisky, even though he wasn't a Scot.
Yes.
And he collected this amazing number of whisky bottles, and they look so glorious the way you've set them off. But, I mean, why collect them? Why not just drink them?
Well, collecting, people collect stamps, people collect guitars. This at least you can drink if you change your mind. Most collectors will buy two bottles, one to drink, one to keep. Yeah. So Clive wasn't left without anything when he sold the collection in 2006.
And he wanted to bring his collection back to Scotland.
Yeah, he was very keen for people to appreciate this lovely site.
So he's left it as a present to Scotland?
He sold it to our biggest shareholder, and we were chosen to showcase it to an international audience.
So look, I have pretty good Scottish roots, but I know nothing about whisky. Tell me about whisky. You must be an expert by now.
Well, it's an easy drink to get to like because of its heritage and its variety. So Scotch whisky is made from cereal. All whisky is made from cereals, but Scotch whisky must be made here in Scotland. We make single malt whisky, which is what we have in our glass this morning. And then we make blended whisky, which is our bread and butter. So mix of different whiskies
So single malt
together.
is the really posh stuff?
Well, it just has a bit more character, more flavour. It's still a small category. Only about 11% of what we export is sold as a single malt. But it has a lot of character, which is good for some people, not so for others.
Isn't there a way of tasting or appreciating whisky? 5 steps or something?
Yeah, so the thing we say first to everybody who comes to us is drink it whichever way you like. You can see on this lovely sensory table how many different aromas and characteristics there are in each glass of whisky. So it goes really well in a cocktail, in a long drink, in a coffee, garlic coffee. So whisky is a really simple drink. It's only made from 3 ingredients: water, barley and yeast. We have 151 distilleries at this moment in Scotland, with more opening this year. And yet you get this amazing array of flavour characteristics. And that's because each distillery tweaks the process slightly. There's an impact of the type of cereal you use, whether it's smoky or not, how long and what kind of casks it's matured in. So I can show you the 5 steps.
Yes, please do.
Since you are here in an old school building, we're going to leave you as an expert.
Yes, please.
So first thing we look at in whiskey is the colour. And the colour is a result of maturation in the oak casks. Paler colour signifies 2 possible things. it's a younger whiskey or it's a whiskey that's been matured in ex-bourbon casks, because those give you this kind of white wine colour.
Yes, it is. Yes. It's
So this
not
is
too
an
dark.
ex-bourbon matured whiskey because it's got this beautiful antique gold, kind of like
it's lovely.
Chardonnay.
So number 1 is hold it up to the light.
Yeah, hold it up to the light of something neutral and you'll see this beautiful amber colour. If the colour is darker, it's likely to either be older or matured in sherry casks. So we use ex-wine casks as well. That gives you that lovely, spicy Christmas, raisins character. And then we look at the body of the whiskey. So that's how it sits on your palate, which we can try shortly. But you can also show off and look like an expert swirling the whiskey in the glass.
So you should do that. Good.
And then what you see coming down the sides are these droplets. We call these the legs of the whiskey. Do you see that? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
Yes. Has it got good legs?
It's got good legs, yeah. So
Excellent.
if your legs are thin and fast, and
Yes.
there's a lot of them, it's a light-bodied whiskey. Few slow droplets means a full-bodied whiskey.
Okay,
So
I think yours
this
has
is
got
kind of
better
on a
legs than
lighter side.
Number 3?
Number 3 is the best, my favourite. And you said you really liked the smell of
Yes,
whiskey
I
before.
do.
So number 3 is the nose. And that's what we call the aroma of the whiskey. And that's why we also use this tulip-shaped glass. This is a whiskey glass because all this empty head space is filled with beautiful aromas.
Yes, it is. And actually, that's very interesting. You talked about the shape of the glass. So if you're a whiskey lover, or you want to show off that you think you are, you should have a tulip-shaped glass.
Well, I think that's the best, but not, I mean, sometimes a nice crystal tumbler just feels really lovely in your hand. And drinking whiskey isn't just about mouth, it's about how it feels in your hand. You know, you can put ice in your whiskey if you want.
Can you?
You can. I mean, we always say drink it whichever way you like because we're only happy you're drinking it.
Okay, well, the nose is telling me that is beautiful. It's got a lovely...
What do you get?
I don't know, it's sort of... It's mellow, it's rounded, it's quite a soft smell,
it's
which I like.
It's lovely. So
because some whiskies, you sniff them and they hit you hard. This one is quite a gentle smell.
it's really gentle. So it's, in terms of flavour, it's probably around here.
Fruity.
So custard, vanilla,
Yes.
citrus, apples,
Okay. Yes, apples. I like it so far.
coconut.
So what step was that, number 3?
That was number 3.
Yeah, number 3 is the nose.
The nose. The nose improves with a touch of water. So don't ever feel bad about
Is that
adding a
why
touch of water.
sometimes they serve you with a
Yes.
little pipette
Yes.
of water?
Because it takes the alcohol down, opens the whiskey up,
I
gives it
see,
chance
okay.
to speak to your nose.
So a little drop of water is
a little drop of water is
fine.
very much recommended.
Yeah.
Number 4 is the best. That's
Yeah.
the taste. Do you want to try this one?
Yes, I will.
Hey, Slangivar.
Langivar.
Slangivar.
Slangivar.
To your health, as we say here in Scotland.
Slangivar. Slangivar.
Yeah, Slangivar. So roll the whiskey in your
So
mouth.
do you knock it back or do you just
No.
taste it very gently on the tongue?
Roll it.
Okay, roll it. Oh, that's nice.
It's lovely, isn't it?
That is, isn't it amazing the way it fills your mouth full
Yeah.
of vapour straight away?
Yeah. And that's the taste.
Is
So
that the bouquet?
that's the taste, that's the flavour.
Okay.
So,
Very nice.
yeah, really nice.
Very
soft,
rounded,
sweet
soft.
vanilla. It's like a custard tart.
Yes. It's
really
very easy.
smooth, very easy drinking. And then number 5, you've got the finish. So short, medium, long. It's kind of medium. I'm still tasting it.
I'm still breathing it down. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can feel it going down the throat.
So whiskey is a great match with food as well. I don't know if you realise this. Chocolate and whiskey, match
Yeah.
made in heaven.
Well, whiskey is used quite a lot in desserts, in making
Yes.
very Scots desserts.
Yes.
Whipping it with cream,
Cranachan,
which is raspberries. And
raspberries, cream and oats.
Oats,
and
yes.
whiskey.
Yeah.
Cheese, amazing
Yes,
match.
that would go. And you can drink it
Yeah.
slowly and
Yeah.
savour it with cheese.
It's a very companionable drink. You know, it encourages conversation. It makes people...
Yes. Oh, it warms the cockles, doesn't it? It literally does. So those
Yeah.
are the 5 steps
Those are
of
the 5
really
steps.
properly appreciating a whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, when we do tastings here with all our visitors, that's what we tell them about. But we also tell them just drink it whichever way suits your palate.
It's very, if you had a cold,
Yeah.
that would clear the airways, wouldn't
Hot
it?
toddy. Have you heard of hot toddy?
Hot toddy.
Yeah.
How is the best way to serve a hot toddy?
Well, I like it with a generous serve of whiskey, hot water, honey, lots of lemon juice, and then cloves and cinnamon.
Cinnamon, yeah. I had a boss at work who used to swore that he could clear any cold with a hot toddy and a cinnamon stick, and you'd just be able to play it with your cinnamon stick. Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. And what an incredible environment to do a whiskey tasting in.
It's, as I say, this is the wow moment for all of our visitors. Yeah. They learn about our national drink, and then they do a tasting here. And then hopefully we fulfill our mission, which is to make the world fall in love with Scotch whisky.
Yes. Are every one of these bottles a sort of different blend or a different make?
So most of them are blended. These are single malts. When Clive started collecting, have a look at these 6 bottles over there. So these are the 6 original
bottles.
A Scottish colleague of his brought him these 6 bottles of single malt in 1969, 1970. And you couldn't find single malt outside of Scotland in those times. So Clive was very intrigued. He decided to never open them and started growing his collection. He took 35 years to collect all of this, had it in Guinness Book of Records a couple of times.
Really?
Yeah, he came here twice to see what we've done to his...
And what was he like?
He was lovely. He was really lovely. Yeah, Brazilians are great.
Well, he loved his whiskey.
Yeah.
But what is lovely is that he decided to leave it till here in the middle of Edinburgh. What's the oldest bottle you've got?
Well, there's a couple of bottles around here. Famous brands, Dewars. Blended whiskey, very famous. They have a female master blender, 6 times best master blender.
Excellent.
Women have a very good nose.
Do they?
Yeah, really.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Oh no, what was it?
Slanjivar.
Slanjivar. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I hope you'll enjoy your
yes,
whiskeys.
it's beautiful. Well, I've come here into the whisky rooms to try and find out how to eat and drink like a Scot. And Eleanor and Stephen are with me too. Well, you're the experts. Shall we start with the drink first?
Yes.
And obviously, everybody coming to Edinburgh would want to know about whisky.
So, single malt whisky, you have to cask it in oak casks, which is convenient because every other industry also uses oak casks. That means that single malt has the biggest diversity of flavour of any alcohol. Because of the way that it's casked. There's 165 different distilleries in Scotland, some of which are making multiple different types, styles of whisky. So there's so much abundance, but this is basically like a snapshot of what you can find in the single malt and overall Scottish whisky industry.
My God, you really know the science of it. It's not just about, tasting and trying out.
Yes.
It's a science.
It is a science, yes. It's a very, very complicated science. There's so many stages. It's so temperamental. A lot can change with the factors, fermentation, distillation, and casking.
See, I would have thought it was just about the ingredients, but it's clearly so much more than that. Just about the very wood that makes the casks.
One of the great authors, described distillers as those near alchemists. You will find that no matter how much you mechanise a distillery and make it efficient, if you've got a degree in brewing and distillation, you start sweeping the floors and doing the odd jobs, and you've got to learn the craft. You can use a distillery, some of them in an automated manner, but it's far, far more craft and science than just science. Incidentally, back to the casks, we get some visitors say, well, is it your own oak? We said, well, we don't really have oak in this country, but we were a trading nation. So the oak barrel was what we used to get everything in and then back out for centuries. And people often ask how many barrels we have. Slightly over 21 million at the moment with whisky maturing in them.
Yeah, I start to see why there are so many different whiskies and tastes. And I don't know, let's get started. Where do you start people off?
We start people off with our simple single malt aged in one type of cask. So the first one that you're going to try is this one. Now, this is one with the darkest colour to it.
Is this the one here on the left?
Yes, it's the one on the left. Now, the colour of this is dark compared to the rest of them because of the cask that it's put into. So this is heavy sherry casked whisky, meaning that it is just sherry casks used or primarily sherry casks.
And what sort of taste will that end up being then if it's in that sort of cask?
So if you've ever tried sherry or any type of fortified wine, red grape fortified wine, this is Oloroso, so that's red grape. It is usually quite sweet, more on that caramelly, chocolatey sweetness.
It has that look about it, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. But you'll also get notes of fruitiness. Now, we're not talking about orchard fruits, we're not talking about apples, we're talking about raisins, dried fruit, plums, dark fruits.
Think of it as having the Christmas cake effect.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Actually, even smells that way.
Yes. This one smells like dark chocolate covered raisins, and weirdly to me it smells like wine gums. It's got a sweety note to it, very much
You know
like,
your whiskey, don't you? You really do.
I do.
Take a little sip first. And swallow it straight back. Don't let it linger on your tongue.
No.
Let it have a first impression. Just where did you feel that?
Going down now.
Slowly.
Very slowly.
Yeah, that.
And it is caramelly.
Yes.
That's what happens with predominantly sherry cask whiskey. It will pass over your palate more slowly than some of the other whiskies that we'll try.
So when you say a sherry cask, you mean a cask that's already fermented sherry?
Yes. So that's what the Scottish whisky industry and in large all whisky industries are. They're like second-hand industries because we age our products, we flavour our products with other alcohol. And I think that's what makes it so unique because of how we process it and age it.
I see. Okay, the next one you've got in lineup is a very different colour.
Yes.
It looks lighter.
Yes. So this one is a mixture of bourbon casked whiskey.
Oh. So that's an American bourbon it's had in it
Yes.
before.
So bourbon, slightly different from single malt in the way that it's processed. It's corn, sugar, alcohol. So it's primarily the mash makeup of it is corn, where in single malt, it's just barley. The way that bourbon is processed is it's put into American oak casks. Now, American oak or white American oak is really high in tannic acid. And tannic acid is really important to flavouring whiskey, evidently with the first one. With this one, what you'll find is that it's a lot more fruity and more towards the orchard fruit style. So this is where you're getting your pear, your apple, and a little bit citrusy as well.
Yes, I was going to say
lighter
citrus.
style of sweetness.
Yes. This one is more similar to something like a white port or grappa. It has a very acidic finish.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
You must have
85% of the casks that we use, incidentally, are bourbon casks. So really 80.
85%.
Slightly over 80. And this came about really in the interwar years. A man called Ian Hunter, who at that time was in charge of Lafroig Distillery, and he went promoting his wares in America, and he found out he could get bourbon casks much more cheaply than European oak casks because in American law you're only allowed to use the cask once to make whiskey. And so the process of shifting towards American oak was interrupted by the Second World War, but after that bourbon casks really began to become the prominent ones that we use.
But isn't that fascinating that the way the Americans make whiskey, they will only have it in new casks?
Yes.
Whereas you are specialising in using other
Yeah,
casks.
we can get another 3 uses out of one of those casks, but that was actually made law in America
Yes.
for a very sound reason. It was to keep rural communities alive in the Great American Depression.
Yes.
Because they just banned prohibition at that point, but they had a massive downturn economically. And if you were only allowed to use cask once and for a maximum of about 4 years, it meant that the foresters and the tree fellers and the carpenters, the coopers, the drivers, all kept jobs and
They
their
all
own money in their
kept
pocket.
jobs,
And
yeah.
it was just a
Very-
coincidence that
very important,
very smart Scotsmen
yeah.
thought, hello, we'll take those off the hands for you. Because they're a fraction of the cost of European oak barrels.
There's a good historic reason, but a different flavour again.
Yes.
Right, let's move on then to the last one, which is
So the
dark
last
side.
one, yes,
the dark side.
the dark side. So this one is peated.
It looks innocent.
It does, but it is peated whiskey, so it's smoky whiskey.
Wow.
Yes. So that one is from Carnmore. They're an independent bottler based in Perth. One of the older indie bottlers. So independent bottlers, they've been around in the whiskey industry since blending has been invented, basically. They're a consequence of the blend industry.
Which was the 1820s, roughly,
Yes.
was when blending began.
How do you describe that smell? I can't.
So,
Do you know,
this-
I've been to Disney World, where you go on the Epcot Magic Globe,
Yeah.
and they say, and now to the Dark Ages, and it smells like that.
Well, what we often get is when we're doing tastings, we encourage people to speak for themselves. We don't like to put words in their mouth. And often I give them a bit of a build-up and say, right, you're not allowed to laugh what anyone says, particularly with the peaty whiskey, because often, as you've just done, you'll get, with peaty whiskey, a non-food and drink analogy
Yes.
popping into your head. One of the best we ever had was a girl stuck her nose into a peaty whiskey and she just said, it smells like the Berlin Underground. Now, everybody else in the room did that except me. I said, no, I know what you mean, I've been there.
Yeah.
Because all underground railways
Yes.
smell of ozone and metal shavings
Yeah.
and then all the other bits that make them
And
unique.
of a very old fire.
Yeah.
Now take the first sip, but the first sip might very well surprise you.
Yeah, because I'm almost scared to try it because the smell is quite shocking.
Well, you were very brave, you did not
Yeah.
faint.
like
Most
some
of the Danish
water.
apparently.
Woo, it's woo, it's got a kick to it.
Yes.
All presence, hasn't
Oh, and it stays
it? Yeah.
in your throat. I
That's
can see
these-
why people would like it though.
See, that's
It's
why these are in
powerful,
this
isn't
open.
it?
It is.
Often people are terrified by the thought of peaty whiskey. But when you prepare them for how to approach it, they're very surprised. That intensity,
Yeah.
well, there's a subtlety about it as well, isn't
Yeah,
it? It's not just
yes, there
wrecking
is.
your palate there. It's
I can't get over how different they are.
Yeah.
Most people coming to Edinburgh for the first time probably will say, right, I've got to eat and drink like a Scot,
Yes.
so I've got to try haggis,
Haggis, yeah.
even if I've heard some strange stories about
Yes. It's not an animal, everyone.
it. No, I know it is.
Just to preface.
It is, because I've heard stories that before you even taste haggis, you've actually got to go out and catch one, which is the
Yes,
difficult bit.
it's so difficult, honestly. No, traditionally haggis is sheep's intestines
Yeah.
and the bits left over. Sounds disgusting.
It does.
But the history behind it is it's a poor person meal. It's whatever you have and you can buy.
Yeah.
That's most of Scottish cooking, actually.
I always
Yeah.
counter people's scepticism about that by saying, well, the French, you invented black pudding and the Americans invented bologna.
Yeah.
So get over the prejudice
Yes.
and
Yes.
try it. It's
Get over the word.
It's gourmet
actually.
food now,
Yeah.
guys.
We even have vegan haggis here.
Yes, we
which
do.
is crazy, really.
Yes, I'm a vegetarian,
Ah,
so
you're a
I'm
vegetarian.
so I'm on the vegan haggis. It's actually really good.
Oh, well, that's a whole new story. Let's see the real thing first.
We don't have a bagpiper for this, but we don't want to go too far.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, thank you. I didn't expect it to be like that. I expected it to be a balloon type thing.
No.
Full of,
Ah, the bun supper
The
style.
bun supper,
Yes.
yeah.
We
No.
parade in with it and
yes, shouldn't we have had pipes? And shouldn't you address it in some way before we cut
well,
in?
that's
Can you
a
remember
little bit
it?
out of season now. The Burns Night, of course, is the 25th. But what you have in front of you is one of our classic Scottish dishes. We have many, but
Ooh,
this is
smells
the
good.
most famous.
Smells good.
Yes.
Traditionally
Yes.
eaten with neeps and tatties. In
Neeps
other
and tatties.
words, mashed turnip, mashed potato.
Yeah. That's
So
neeps
what
and
you've got
tatties.
here is a whole set of lovely spices, which were used not just to flavour the haggis, but to preserve it. So you've got mace and nutmeg and pepper
Yes.
and all sorts of lovely feisty spices that soften the more distinctive flavours of the ingredients.
So you've got neeps and tatties at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I see. And what's the sauce?
I don't know.
Chef's own
nice.
whiskey sauce. It's a lot meatier than some people might expect. They might expect the texture not to be nice. They might expect the flavour to be strange when you tell them what the ingredients are. But it's a very pleasant, rounded experience, and the sweetness of the vegetarian elements in there will
Yes.
round that. So now you've got those spicy, peppery flavours going on in your palate. Pick your favourite whiskey and take a little sip. If you find this too intense, there are other ways of enjoying. Personally, I think I'm far happier having whiskey with a really good cheese bone.
Yeah.
And it does go remarkably well
Yeah.
with chocolate.
Well, and yes, there are lots of desserts
Yes.
that use whiskey.
Best dessert for a caramelly, smoother whiskey like the Linders Rhubarb crumble.
So that's the sweetness.
Works so unbelievably well.
Sweetness, very good texture, crumbly texture.
Crumbly texture, a little bit
And
of
then-
spice in there, rhubarb coming through, it works beautifully.
So one of the times that people come and eat all of this sort of thing and drink it is Burns Night. Now, what is Burns Night?
Burns Night is our annual celebration of our most famous poet, Robert Burns. We eat this lovely, hearty, spicy food and drink whiskey, not just to celebrate Burns, but because Burns Night is in the dead of winter on January the 25th. So it's quite useful we're having this sort of stuff and not salad.
Yeah.
We would traditionally start Burns supper with something like cock-a-leekie soup. We'd go on to the haggis and the famous address of the haggis when our national dishes paraded into bagpipes and Celtic people make speeches about Robert Burns and celebrate his poetry. But they celebrate his poetry very specifically because of the humanity that's at the heart of it. Robert Burns is Scotland's main national poet because he's a poet of the poor people, because he lived a life of astonishing poverty and hardship, and it's reflected in his poems, not always in a negative way, but with great hope despite the great tragedies that he underwent. So we celebrate the food, the culture, the poetry, and that very Scottishness that's at the heart of it.
And what did he call the haggis?
The chieftain of the pudding race.
Because it is actually a pudding.
It is, well, technically speaking, it's a steamed dish, therefore it's a pudding. Yeah.
Which is a pudding, yeah. What I find amazing as well about Robert Burns is that while he wrote his poems in Scottish, although some in what they call English Scottish,
Yes.
he was known the world over, apparently huge in Russia.
Yeah. It's the appeal of the sentiment that's in the poems and the way he could bring that across in very eloquent but understated sort of peasant style. You have got Scottish people or people with Scottish ancestry all over the world who've taken the Burns supper culture with them, but it's spread outside of those little communities, and people grasp the poetry because he had such, as I say, eloquence, and he managed to have the humour as well. He was a working man all his life. He was a customs man. That made him familiar with whiskey. He worked on farms, he was a labourer, he had an extraordinarily hard physical life. And I think that the reach after the Scottish diaspora happens of Burns' poetry just speaks to people of all classes and all ages. And that's why it's celebrated every year. And we celebrate it with these very traditional dishes and this very traditional drink because in the heart of winter, that brings a whole lot of Scottish elements together on one night.
It's amazing that his effect is the world over. But who else are your heroes?
Oh, in whiskey, you've got to have
So
few.
many. There's so many. Whiskey attracts characters, historically and even now, especially in Edinburgh. With the blend trade, there were a lot of companies that based themselves in Edinburgh. You've got George Ballantyne, who's notable.
Well, that's a very famous name.
Very famous name, yes. He started Ballantyne Blends. So initially he was just a grocer in Edinburgh, but a very, very smart one. So he started to basically release bottles of whiskey in his shop, basically doing makeshift blends. So buying casks, blending them together, selling the Ballantyne's bottle in his shop. And that was basically the start of a massive empire of Ballantyne's blends.
And these people, they called them the whiskey barons in the end because many of them were elevated to the House of Lords. They created the platform that made whiskey famous throughout the world because for the first time you were getting a consistent product. If that thing said Ballantyne's whiskey on it, that would have the Ballantyne's taste anytime you bought the bottle.
Yes.
Because before that, you drank whatever was available and it would change from barrel to barrel from year to year. And you guys made huge amounts of money. Now, we have got our version of the Royal Albert Hall here, Carnegie Hall in America. It's the Usher Hall. The Usher Hall, our concert hall in Edinburgh, was built by money given entirely by Andrew Usher out of his fortune. One of the ones I love is Tommy Dewar from the
another
Dewars
famous
blend.
name.
When Tommy Dewar was mucking about London with Tommy Lipton, they call them the two Tommies, they were real characters. What Tommy Dewar would do, would go into a bar that was popular, but he knew didn't stock his brand. He'd chassis up the counter and say, "I say, my good man, well, Dewar's here." "What? You don't sell Dewar's?" He "Doesn't sell Dewar's, doesn't sell Dewar's." And he'd create a stink in the place and then walk out. And then the next person who would come in would be the Dewar's rep. happening to... And he would do this in weird disguises, and if you didn't get success, the place, you go back the next day in a false beard and do it again.
He was a marketer.
Shameless.
Yes.
Self-publicist.
A lot of the whiskey barons are amazing marketeers. That's how they sold their products, just sheer creativity to get it out there. Notably the Pattison brothers.
Yeah, we do like the Pattison story.
Yes,
Tell us the Pattison
So,
story.
the Pattisons actually almost bankrupted the whisky world permanently, because in the 1890s they were caught in jail for running a Ponzi scheme. And they'd been doing it for years, and the rest of the industry thought it was a boom time, and it actually wasn't, and it almost bankrupted whisky. But they were advertising geniuses. Now, you have been or will be going to Princess Street Gardens. So you've got Pall Mall in London, Champs-Élysées in Paris, Unterdinland in Berlin, leafy avenue trees in a capital city, and people in polite society.
It's the place to be seen.
Yeah, what the Pattisons did, to exploit that fact, was buy themselves 36 parrots.
Parrots.
Talking
Yes,
parrots.
Yes.
And they trained the parrots to say, Pattison's is best. Pattison's is best. I'm not making this as gospel truth. Pattison's is best. So they released the parrots under cover of darkness in the trees one night, hoping basically that the following would happen. The parrots would sit in the trees all day long, saying the only thing they'd be taught to say, which was, of course, Pattison's is best. Pattison's is best. And the people walking below wouldn't be able to avoid hearing it. So it was actually the Scots who invented subliminal advertising.
Yes.
So you can imagine being down there, walking along, arm in arm with your beloved, you halfway along, you say, you know, darling, it's a funny thing, I wasn't thirsty before we came out, but I'd love a glass of Pattison. You'd love a glass too. Oh, splendid, there's a bar right across there. Now that's genius, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Very
You're
clever.
now wondering why you've not heard that story. What could go wrong with a plan as brilliant as that?
The birds said the wrong thing.
They did not do that, no. Some people ask if they flew away. Some people ask if predators got them. No, didn't have any time for that to happen. Because on the autumn night they were released, there was a very early, very severe frost, and they were all found frozen stiff, stone dead. Do you know some people laugh at the end of that story and I think it's shocking? But it just goes to show you the lengths to which we would go in advertising.
But it's a brilliant story.
It's a great story.
Yeah, it should have worked, shouldn't it?
But basically, you just get people like that in the industry, and that's how it took off. Up until the 1870s, the British Empire drank whiskey that was Irish whiskey. But we basically got much better at making whiskey. We had a much bigger variety. We created consistently a blended whiskey, and we went out into the world and made Scotch the premium spirit that it is. And it was people like that who did it, and they made enormous amounts of money.
And what does that tell you about the Scottish character?
Inventive,
Yes.
historically.
Yeah, I think it was J.M. Barrie, our author, who said that there are a few sights in the world more impressive than a Scotsman on the make. So if we want to make money, we will go out and do it.
We will.
Yeah.
Wonderful stories. Thank you so much. And they're true stories you've just told me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for giving us, well, more than a flavour of what it's like to eat and drink like a Scot when you're here, but also there's wonderful stories of the heroes that made this what it is.
Yes.
Eleanor, Stephen, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and raise your glass. And
Oh,
a
yes.
traditional
Yes.
toast of Slanchivar.
Sanchivar.